Hello and welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow, the only show on Indian television where you, the MSME, get center stage. This is ET Now's special daily initiative to give MSMEs and entrepreneurs the opportunity to be front and center on every industry and area that matters to you. Tonight on the show, on influencer conversation with Digital India Payments, and later on the show, we'll feature Avaz app and Shortlist, that's on small giants. Digital payments and digitization is sweeping the country. Just got a push thanks to the government's demonetization drive. But it is companies, both the innovators as well as the users, who are the real driving force behind it. I caught up with the MD of Digital India Payments, Hari Prasad Babu, to discuss how the landscape of digital payments is changing and what innovation the company is undertaking. Take a listen to this interview I recorded earlier. Thank you very much for speaking with us here on Leaders of Tomorrow. Hi, let's start by talking about the business. What do you do? For our viewers, help us understand better what it is you do.
So we are basically digital infrastructure platform creator, right? We have created a digital infrastructure platform. So what we do here is we create a platform with the backend of payments, banking, insurance and e-commerce, right? When I say all this with the platform, today we see a lot of people getting into the digital platform, but they are not able to do it with respect to understanding how to use the payments model, right? So we create a platform with respect to organization who wants to come in and the users who want to use it. So if you look at the pillars of the company, it's into three. One, the rural India as such. Two, the urban, and the three, connecting rural and the urban, right? If you look at the rural products, it's mostly into Aadhaar-enabled payment systems or booking a train ticket, the flight ticket, or booking a bus ticket, getting a PAN, everything, whatever they want to do, they can come and do it from our center.
Okay.
So in the urban solution, it's more of issuing prepaid cards, the travel cards, the forex cards, meal cards, health card. These are things which you issue from our urban outlets. There is a gap between rural and the urban. There is a lot of migrants from the rural who come to the urban, right? So they send back the money home, right? So they can come to a center 24/7 and they can transfer the money to their bank, into their family's account.
Sure.
So once the money is transferred to their family, this is called as domestic money transfer.
Okay.
Once the money is transferred in the family's account, the family can go to a center in the rural location using Aadhaar. They can withdraw the money, right? Not all the villages are connected with banks or the ATMs.
Yeah, that was my next question.
Yeah,
so how are you ensuring that the people who are in rural India, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, are able to access banking? Because a lot of them are still unbanked.
True. So we have almost around 15,000 outlets. Majorly it is in the rural areas, right? So people can go to our outlet using Aadhaar.
Are these franchisees or company owned?
It's a combination of both.
Okay.
It's a franchises plus our own model also, right?
Okay.
So they can go there using Aadhaar, they can withdraw money or they can deposit money in any of the bank accounts in India.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you find that having local languages is preferable when it comes to, working in rural India? Are you innovating? Is that the next level of innovation?
Definitely. So if you look at our app or the website, the first it starts with the agent, the digital Sati that's looking at the website, right? He has to look at everything in the regional language, right? Whether it is Tamil or Bengali or Gujarati or Hindi, right? They have to look at the regional language. They feel very comfortable with respect to reading and inputting the data,
Sure.
right? And then comes is the customer who speaks to our agent. They speak in the local language, right? And then our local representative who speaks to the agent. They communicate with the local language. And if they have any issues, they call up a call center. A call center is, we have enabled them with all the regional language speaking, right? I mean, the language expertise. So they speak to them in the local language.
Okay.
So end to end, we communicate with them in the regional languages. Okay. So that gives a confidence to the customer and to our agents in the entire ecosystem.
Okay. So when you're talking about rural India, I presume you're talking about individuals. The Leaders of Tomorrow speaks with MSMEs and entrepreneurs.
Right.
And at this point, India has about 36 million MSMEs, a large part of whom are not necessarily in tier 1.
Right.
How are MSMEs in non-metros using digital and electronic payment systems? and how should they possibly be using it? How should they move to new ways of payment, receiving money, paying money? How should that possibly happen?
See, there are a lot of guys who come into the payment systems with respect, whether e-commerce or they have some product or a manufacturing, right? For everyone, it is not possible to create a payment ecosystem, right? With respect to their product, that is not their core business. Sure. They create a product, they create a solution, right? What they can do is they can come and ride on a digital entire network, right? They come in, we have complete ecosystem of the payments that's already plugged in. They bring their product or the solution, and we give them a touch points of almost around 15,000 immediately. So they don't need to go each and every location. They can plug in, and we take them everywhere, and we make sure that our agents are trained in those products and it reaches the end customer.
Okay. With demonetization in GST, going online, having digital and electronic payment systems is becoming almost a no-brainer. Now you don't have much of a choice. But that said, a lot of the MSMEs still tell us that there's a cost associated with using technology, whether it's technology for your business or whether it's technology when it comes to finance. How would you answer that? Using products like yours, perhaps, help our viewers understand by how much you can maybe reduce the costs involved in your own business, because in the long term it's, I'm sure, going to be cheaper and beneficial.
True. Anybody who wants to sell something, right, they have to be part of the digital ecosystem now. The traditional model of cash is there, but it's started, the digital is picking up, right? The cash is coming down. It'll take a time or a while to completely get into digital format. So for them, as I was mentioning, right, anybody who wants to get into this segment have to create the digital ecosystem, right? For them, it's actually a time, effort and the cost to build the entire stuff. So we give them the platform. They can focus on their core business, they can plug into our system, and they can just enable the digital world for them. Whether it is POS machines or Aadhaar, or it is any fund transfer through QR code or anything, we can do it.
Okay. Yeah. So speaking of point of sales, mobile, etc., which of these segments is growing the fastest? And tell me your own views on the mobile in India and how people are using it. Where do you see the usage of the mobile when it comes to financing options growing?
The key was the POS machines, which have been in an amazingly growth stage after demonetization. It has stabilized with respect to the growth. But the future I would see is Aadhaar. Right? It is more convenient, the cost is drastically low. You don't need to carry a card or anything, you need your Aadhaar number, and with your fingerprint, you can just do the transaction. So it's as of now, it's the POS, the cards, but it will gradually move to Aadhaar at very fast phases happening. I'll gradually move it completely to Aadhaar. That's what I see. And Aadhaar is being an Indian solution, right? Indian. We have created it to an extent. So it's much more. The way the people accept it, it's always there.
Okay, and what part does the mobile have to play in this, especially rural India, because I assume your tier 1 markets are getting saturated?
Tier 1 market to an extent, yes. A segment of the tier 1 is getting saturated, where the self-service was actually there. But even there's a large portion of the tier 1 segment, especially the people who they use the feature phones, right? So it is still untapped. That is the segment which we are actually targeting in a big way, right? The phones have actually helped them, right? We onboard them into the digital world, and the next step is they have to start using it by themselves, right? We help them to do it. So that is how the phones are happening, but then it will take some time to reach, because the cost of the phone has to drastically come down. The quality of the network has to improve, especially in the rural, which is happening, and it will happen at a very fast phase also, right, shortly.
You were talking about Aadhaar earlier, and I want to talk about security of data, especially since you said you have about 15,000 agents across India, you work with the franchise model. Does the question of security come up when financial information is being handled? How do you, sort of handle that?
Any payments, the banking, the moment it comes into, there's definitely, with respect to security, you have to think about it, right? Luckily, we have a good statutory body in India who, generally, the payments are always, monitored or regulated in a big way, right? It's regulated and monitored also, right? So it has been majorly with respect to the cards, right? The cards has its own merits and demerits, right? There's a cost associated to issuing, maintaining, and everything that has been quite doing well, and it'll do well also in the future. But Aadhaar is something which we have created, as India has created it, right? Which is very convenient and comfortable way of doing it. The government on the RBA and the statutory UADA, they have been creating a lot of security standards. Like now they recently launched level 0 security standard. Any device, the fingerprint device, have to be registered with UADA, then only you can do the transaction. Okay. The next level would be level 1 of security. So the levels of security is getting, they are adding it up. So it will come up, As the solution keeps growing, the security also will come up. Okay. So it's good that we have started it, right? We have to start it to reach somewhere.
Time for a break. When we come back, two companies on Small Giants tonight, Avaz app and Shortlist. To stay tuned. Welcome back. You're with us here on Leaders of Tomorrow, and tonight we're featuring Avaz app and Shortlist on our Small Giants segment. Now, according to a WHO report, India is home to about 10 million people with autism and disability. Autistic children, in fact, are described as being locked in their own world and struggle to communicate with others. But this startup is making a huge stride by creating a device that's removing barriers to education for autistic children and adults alike. Anshua Banerjee brings you the story of Chennai-based Invention Labs. Take a look.
India is home to about 10 million people with autism and disability. Approximately 1 out of 88 children are born with this condition every year. Recognizing that India has very few speech therapists, this Chennai-born startup redesigned the world of generative linguistics into the world of autism and disability.
Happy birthday.
Avaz was launched in February 2010 and is now used by children with special needs all over the world. The device is designed with a focus to make speech therapy more effective, develop the child's language, and improve his intent to communicate.
Building an app to give voices to children with autism, the idea definitely belongs to a very different school of thought. Walk us through the journey behind Avaz app.
We saw these problems that the kids faced in like accessing education, any kind of learning material, participating in classrooms, and most importantly, communication. So I think the fact that we were trained as engineers to think like engineers and see a problem and find a solution for it, and the fact that we were in that kind of a setting where we were closely looking at interacting with people with disabilities. So that kind of led us to look at this problem and say, hey, can we build something that's focused for India and kids with communication disabilities? Can we build something for them as a learning tool, as a communication tool?
So Avaz is definitely creating opportunities that did not exist before. Talk to your viewers about how this app works and also about the newly launched free speech app.
Avaz is a picture-based communication system. So it has a set of pictures. You can tap the pictures and create a sentence and it will speak it out. So it acts like an artificial voice for people who don't have a voice, or it can augment someone's existing voice. So the interesting thing there is that it not only helps in the language development of the child, because you would see pictures and the child will see a picture of, say, apple, and associate and tap apple, or they'll associate, say, verbs like want, eat, and they will associate that and create sentences. So they're building language, they're acting, and then you're using it to communicate as well.
So how do you go about marketing and branding your product? How will a parent or a therapist know about the Avaz app? Is word of mouth enough?
What we've had success with is that there is this whole community around Avaz. So it's obviously, the traditional forms of marketing can only do so much, then it doesn't really work very well always. But what's been really a strong driving force for us is this small community building. So for example, like we have like a Facebook group where parents and users of Avaz talk about how they use Avaz, and then we have experts from around the world commenting on that.
Talk to us about your monetization strategy, since you've already pivoted the product in different labeled schools and relevant organizations. How does your revenue model look like?
We have tried a few different models. The one with which we have had some success is kind of an upfront. So that you buy the device. So the device has to be bought. Say if you buy an iPad or an Android device, and then you will have to download it from the App Store. So as like you download any other app from the App Store, you would download Avaz from the App Store and pay via the App Store itself. So that's the model that's worked so far. So what happens is usually people, the cost is more on the device. So the device is like significantly costly, but the app is much cheaper compared to that. So what happens is that people would buy, say a school would buy say 5 devices, and then they can buy like 5 licenses of the software from us.
Talking of government regulations, which keep on changing from time to time, maybe one as we speak, do you think the government's doing enough to support these startups in these social initiatives?
I would say the TN government has specifically, like they've taken a very big step. So last year they distributed around close to 200 devices with Avaz installed to all the districts across Tamil Nadu. So it's not like an urban thing, it's like a complete spread across Tamil Nadu. And what they've done is they've installed, so there's Avaz installed in it. So kids on a weekly basis, so there are like some 600 schools in Tamil Nadu with special needs.
So at Avaz, design and technology are at the heart of creating the best EdTech experience for children with autism. What are the next set of innovations you're looking at?
What we are trying to do is build products that will enable parents, enable special ed teachers to basically work like an expert in the field of like say speech therapy. Can they use Avaz to make their child like improve their child's verbal communication? Can they use Avaz to augment their child's learning? So we are building this whole training material, and it's not like your usual video training material. It's like a nice interactive game or an innovative take on learning, and involving parents and caregivers more and more, because at the heart of it, it is very important that people, parents and caregivers are involved, and that's how it's going to impact the child.
What makes Avaz unique is an intervention tool that helps parents fulfill the role of a speech therapist. Following the success of Avaz, the company intends to develop a visual language called free speech to empower autistic children in their ability to communicate.
Whether it's a company sifting through piles of resumes every day or a job seeker who's tired of mailing his or her resume to multiple companies, our startup in focus tonight is here to help ease this process. Shortlist, a Mumbai, California-based hiring tech startup, streamlines early to mid-level hiring in India and East Africa. They screen applicants through online competency tests and predictive chat-based interviews and present a list of outstanding candidates ready for second-round interviews. Karishma Vanjani has more.
Meet Chuck. Chuck is looking for a perfect candidate for his company. Chuck wants to make sure the people who respond to his job ad understand what the job is all about. However, Chuck doesn't have the time or resources to screen all the responders. So what does he do? Well, Chuck signs up with Shortlist.
Shortlist helps him find the right candidate to fit all his requirements, and within no time, Chuck has a new co-worker. Chuck is smart. Be Chuck. Simon, thanks for talking to us on Leaders of Tomorrow. My first question to you is about the creation of Shortlist. What led to its creation, and what is the screening process like?
So my co-founders Paul Breloff and Matt Schnook and I were so fed up with how difficult it is to source and screen talent in India. And it shouldn't be that way. India is full of talent. And so Shortlist was created to change how talent is matched with opportunity in India. away from this old world of tell me what you've done on your CV to the new world of show us what you can do. So essentially demonstrations of real-time competency and skill. And so as soon as a candidate applies online on our platform, we start assessing for their basic fit. We start asking questions, do they have the right number of years experience? Are they prepared to move to a particular location for a job? And as soon as we've established that basic fit, we'll then start taking them through competency-based assessments, essentially trying to mimic what they would be doing on Monday morning if we hired them, to get a sense of whether they would actually perform on the job.
So Simon, let's talk about this customized tool here, which is essentially built to assess applicants. But as we both know, there are too many job applicants out there with different educational backgrounds and work qualifications. So how do you ensure this tool efficiently assesses all kinds of applicants?
We start with the job description itself, and we make sure that what we're assessing for are the few actual must-have competencies that are linked to on-the-job performance. So rather than ask abstract questions, we simulate work samples of candidates, and those will depend on every job. And for each job we look at, we'll develop custom competency-based assessments that assess whether a candidate will be able to perform well on a particular task or a particular job or not.
How is Shortlist different from the job portals that are out there in India? There are dime a dozen. There is Naukri.com, there's Monster, and then there's LinkedIn too. How is Shortlist different from that? I mean, it essentially does provide a job in the end.
Sure. Shortlist isn't a job portal, but we use job portals to help source candidates and assess them for their competency and their fit for a particular task. And with Shortlist, unlike the vast majority of recruiters in India, you will always hear back as a candidate from us. And that's what job portals don't do today. They're great sources of candidates. There are many candidates on job portals, but what we're doing is actually giving employers a sense of who will actually perform on the job or not.
So let's talk about the good news. Shortlist just recently received a $1 million seed funding. I want to understand, what does Shortlist plan to do with this capital, and how did you get investors' attention?
So at Shortlist, we're going to be using most of that funding to build better product. And in our world, better product means even more effective assessments, and that takes a lot of tech time, it takes a lot of product time. We're also very proud at Shortlist of the investors and funders that we have behind us. And we also have groups like the Shell Foundation in the UK. And all of those funders are interested, of course, in Shortlist's economic opportunity, but they're also interested in the social and public benefit impact that we can have as a business, inherent in better matching talent with opportunity in objective ways and taking the bias out of the process. So it's both a social impact story as well as an economic impact story.
So let's talk numbers here. I understand you've got a socially impacting model. I understand you've got investors' attention. But what ultimately has been the job seekers' response and the response of corporates?
Sure. So we've been amazed at the reaction that we've got from both small businesses that are growing fast as well as large corporates. We're working with large corporates such as one of the big 3 management consulting firms, one of the big 4 accounting firms. With large corporates, Shortlist acts as an intelligent screening layer above the recruitment team at that large corporate, but below all the different sources of candidates that are coming in. And so we're able to save them both time and give them better quality candidates.
Let me quickly wrap up this interview. What is the vision of Shortlist, and where do you see the company in the next 5 to 10 years?
Sure. So our mission at Shortlist is to unlock the professional potential of the masses and to help change how candidates are sourced and screened away from this old world of tell me what you've done on your CV, pedigree-based, to a world of show me what you can do, or competency-based assessment. And in 5 to 10 years, we hope to be the leading tech-enabled recruiter in the world.
Simon, thanks for talking to us on Leaders of Tomorrow.
Thank you so much, Karishma.
Vetting applicants through custom-made assessments, Shortlist provides you a list of outstanding candidates ready for second round of interviews. So stop spending your time and money on hiring and let Shortlist build your team.
That's our episode tonight. If you have any feedback for us, you can always email us at leadersoftomorrowtimesgroup.com. Tweet at me personally, in fact, at Sunanda_J on Twitter, or our official Twitter handle, LOT_ET Now. You can also leave your comments on our Facebook page, Leaders of Tomorrow on ET Now. Call us on advice on that number you see on your screen. We love hearing from you. Thanks very much for watching. Have a good night.